Lil Petey is one of the most beloved characters in Dog Man. Everyone is eager to see him in a possible DreamWorks movie sequel. But do you have any idea about the amazing things that could happen to him in the future of the franchise? A strong possibility is that the little cat will become a police officer when he grows up. Unlike his father, Lil Petey never had the slightest desire to be a supervillain. Even when he agreed to help him on a criminal mission, he didn't really understand what he was doing. It was precisely because of his pure heart that his father abandoned him on the street, and that same pure heart also made Petey regret leaving him shortly after. In other words, Lil Petey is definitely a good guy. He's Dog Man's friend and is always willing to help him defeat all sorts of villains. It's only natural to think that Lil Petey's passion for justice will lead him to become a police officer, just like Dog Man in the future. Of course, that's still many years away. Since he's had experience fighting crime since his first year of life, he's definitely destined to become an even better police officer than Dog Man himself and inherit his legacy as the greatest protector of OK City. There are two ways we could see this happen. The first and most exciting is if there's a major time jump at some point in the franchise, introducing a new generation of characters to adventure in OK City. In this case, Dog Man, Petey, Chief, and the others who were already adults would be older and wouldn't have much screen time. Lil Petey, on the other hand, would probably become the new protagonist of the saga, which would have to change its name to Catman. The second option is that the story continues in the present, but shows glimpses of this future in a few scenes to give us an idea of what will happen years down the line. The latest Dog Man book focuses on Big Jim's past, so it's not hard to believe that there could be a book, and later a movie, with some small spoilers about Lil Petey's adult life. If we want to think outside the box, just like the Dog Man stories always do, we could even imagine Lil Petey getting caught up in a time travel adventure that leads him to meet his older self. See how much Lil Petey still has ahead of him? And this is just the beginning. So, get ready, Cinewave is starting now! One thing we're absolutely sure will happen in Dog Man's second movie is the adaptation of one of the coolest moments from the books, the moment when Dog Man and Lil Petey officially become superheroes. That's right, it might sound crazy to those unfamiliar with the original material that inspired the movie, but they become vigilantes starting in the fourth book of the series. Dog Man transforms into the Dark Bark Knight, while Lil Petey becomes his loyal sidekick, Cat Kid. And this isn't just a one-time thing. They continue using these secret identities in the more recent volumes. No wonder Bark Knight and Cat Kid even appear in the Dog Man video game. DreamWorks' movie mainly adapts the first 3 books. They will obviously adapt the following adventures in the second film, which makes it highly likely that Lil Petey will stop being just a little kitty and become a super kitty. It's even ironic that the son of the so-called most evil cat in the world has turned into a true superhero. If you're hoping to see Lil Petey making new friends his age in a future movie, don't worry, it's just a matter of time before it happens. In the book Fetch 22, Dog Man accidentally dumped into a lake the same substance that gave Flippy his powers. As a result, 22 tadpoles became intelligent and gained the same psychic abilities as the cyborg fish. The problem? They turned out just as crazy and evil as Flippy used to be. Among them was a female tadpole named Molly, who ended up becoming friends with Lil Petey, and as a result, gave up being a villain. Her 21 siblings also changed sides because of Lil Petey's influence. And that's how a beautiful friendship was born. Lil Petey and Molly became best friends, and she started appearing frequently in the series from that point on. So DreamWorks is probably just waiting for the right opportunity to bring this amazing friendship to the big screen. However, she first appears in the 8th Dog Man book. If each movie adapts 3 books, that means Molly and her siblings might only show up in a 3rd film. Then again, Petey's father was introduced only in the 7th book, but appeared right in the first movie, so maybe DreamWorks will tweak the story a bit to bring Molly in earlier, even if it's just for a small cameo. If you want to see Lil Petey's friends showing up in the movies, drop a comment below with #friends. But what if, besides making friends, Lil Petey also gets a girlfriend? Okay, he's way too young to think about romance right now. He's much more interested in drawing and fighting crime. But time will pass, and Lil Petey will likely grow up as the books and movies progress. So it would be amazing to see him falling in love for the first time and starting to date in the future. And maybe the girl he ends up dating has already appeared in the books. We're talking about Molly, his best friend. Not only are they both intelligent animals, but they also have a lot in common. Molly is super friendly, creative, and loves making comics, just like Lil Petey. However, we can't rule out the possibility of him meeting a brand new character who is also a cat. Both of Petey's parents were cats, which means that characters in this universe might prefer to date within their own species. Since there are plenty of felines in OK City, after all, there's even a prison just for them, it wouldn't be hard for Lil Petey to meet a cat girl he falls for. Or could it be that in the end, his love interest turns out to be a human? After all, Lil Petey doesn't care about social norms. He only sees people for who they really are. So he could totally fall for a human girl. The question is, can a cat and a human have kids in the Dogman universe? If so, would the baby be of one species or a mix of both? So far, it seems like Lil Petey has a bright future ahead of him, but there's one tragic possibility we can't ignore. At some point in the future, his father might not make it. Like it or not, OK City is always under threat from some villain, and Petey, Lil Petey's dad, often helps Dogman deal with those dangers. So, there's a real risk that the former most evil cat in the world could end up being taken down by a villain, leaving his son all alone. It's hard to even imagine how Lil Petey would react. He might feel guilty, knowing that his dad only became a good person because of him. In fact, this event could even mark the start of a darker phase in his life, especially if he starts believing that good people always suffer in the end while the bad ones get away with everything. Would that be enough to turn Lil Petey into the new most evil cat in the world? Another thing that's bound to happen sooner or later, both in the books and the DreamWorks adaptation, is Lil Petey starting school alongside other kids. So far, since he's basically still a newborn, he hasn't been enrolled in school yet. But as he gets older, he'll have to start studying, especially now that his father is no longer a criminal. Up until now, most of Lil Petey's friends have been other animals, like Flippy, Molly, and the other tadpoles. But once he starts going to school, he'll have to interact with human kids, and he might even face bullying for being a cat and the son of a former villain. But we all know how Lil Petey handles things. He'll find a way to deal with the bullies, and who knows, he might even end up befriending them with his incredible charisma. Speaking of which, remember when we talked about the possibility of Lil Petey getting a girlfriend in the future? Could it be that he'll meet the love of his life at school? So many things could happen in this little cat's life, right? To keep exploring the world of Dogman and other animations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll never miss our daily videos. If you paid close attention to the movie, you probably remember that Lil Petey has an amazing gift for drawing. He was able to create some really cool illustrations from the day he was born, something that would make any artist jealous. After all, anyone who's ever tried to draw knows that mastering this skill usually takes a lot of effort and dedication. And this talent is only going to become more important in the story. In the books, Lil Petey actually creates a comic-making club. Molly is the vice president, while his tadpole brothers are the students. Another member of the club is Flippy, who, as we saw at the end of the movie, also becomes a great friend to Lil Petey. The adventures of this comic club are featured in a spin-off book series starring Lil Petey, which focuses entirely on the club. It wouldn't be surprising if this spin-off were eventually adapted into an animated short series. Now, let's talk about something that could happen in both the movies and the books. If Lil Petey doesn't become a police officer, there's a good chance he'll end up as a famous comic creator. Actually, even if he does become an officer, he could still work as a cartoonist in his free time. Lil Petey's origin wasn't exactly natural. In fact, he was created using a cloning machine. Biologically speaking, he's more like Petey's twin brother than his son, though twins are usually, the same age. But what if Lil Petey wasn't the only clone of Dogman's former enemy? Lil Petey's birth was actually a mistake, since he was supposed to be the same age as his creator. This already proves that the cloning machines in this universe don't work very well. After all, keeping the machine on for 18 years just to get an adult clone makes no sense. Since Petey's DNA sample remained inside the machine, it could have created several other clones over time, and they might have left without anyone noticing. If that's the case, Lil Petey could end up meeting a bunch of other kittens that look exactly like him. The real question is, will these clones be friendly, or will they try to take Lil Petey's place? Well, knowing how this saga goes, we can totally imagine them starting off as villains and eventually becoming Lil Petey's best friends. We've got 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click on the one that looks the most interesting. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.